This is the Stars and Stripes in 7, your online source for editorially independent news and information for the U.S. military community. I'm Lamont Easter. U.S. and partner forces have been targeted again by rocket fire at their base in northeastern Syria. Troops at the base known as Green Village reported no injuries in last week's attack that included 8 rounds that struck in and near the outpost, causing minor damage. After the attack, coalition forces, which are officially in Syria to stamp out the remnants of ISIS alongside Syrian Democratic Forces, returned fire with 6 artillery rounds, striking the area from where the enemy rockets were launched. Green Village sits just east of the Euphrates River in northeastern Syria, adjacent to major oil fields. It is run by SDF forces, but also houses several hundred American and coalition partner troops, who advise their Syrian partners there, defense officials have said. U.S. troops remain in Iraq on a training mission. Several hundred American forces remain in Syria, but Pentagon officials have declined Wednesday to provide a specific total of U.S. troops there. The first court-martial of a general officer on a sex assault charge in the history of the Air Force began at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Ex-Air Force Research Laboratory Commander Major General William Cooley is charged under Article 120, which concerns sexual assault. Cooley denies the allegations. The 2-star general is charged with kissing and touching a woman without her consent in Albuquerque, New Mexico in August 2018, according to the Air Force charge. Don Christensen, a former chief prosecutor for the Air Force, told the Dayton Daily News in 2020 that if the Cooley case went to court-martial, he would be the first general officer in Air Force history to face such a proceeding. Last month, President Biden signed into law provisions of the I Am Vanessa Guillen Act, which were included in the $770 billion National Defense Authorization Act. Under the law, which went into effect on January 1st, military commanders will no longer be involved in military sexual harassment or sexual assault investigations. The decision to prosecute sexual assault and harassment will be made outside service members' chain of command. The law was named for a murdered U.S. Army soldier. The U.S. military authority in Japan raised its coronavirus risk level a notch higher in response to growing numbers of COVID-19 cases on U.S. bases throughout the country. By moving to Health Protection Condition Bravo, U.S. Forces Japan imposed on all U.S. installations a uniform set of rules to help stem the coronavirus spread. Anyone with the military and recently arrived must wear a mask while waiting on a negative COVID-19 test while indoors and in public areas. Condition Bravo calls for avoiding unnecessary travel, and wearing a mask off base is compulsory for anyone affiliated with the U.S. military, regardless of vaccination status. During a phone call with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Japanese Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi asked for stronger measures from U.S. commands in Japan, including limits on off-base travel and a curfew to curb the coronavirus surge. Blinken said the health and safety of the Japanese are very important, along with those in the U.S. forces in Japan, and he would convey Japan's request to the Department of Defense immediately. The U.S. has established a forward operating headquarters in Albania and will use the facility in the Adriatic Sea-facing country as a home base for missions in the broader Balkans. The headquarters will give U.S. Special Operations more logistical flexibility and better access to regional transportation hubs. Service members will be stationed there on rotational basis. The headquarters in Albania resembles similar sites in other parts of Europe. Albania is a fellow NATO member. The move puts American special operators near such countries as Greece, Kosovo, Montenegro, Bosnia, North Macedonia, and Serbia, where Russian political, economic, and military influence has been growing steadily stronger. For U.S. European Command, the Balkans has been an area of concern for several years. The Department of Veterans Affairs recently proposed eliminating co-payments for health care appointments for veterans at high risk of suicide. The proposed policy would eliminate co-payments for outpatient health care visits for veterans who are identified by a VA doctor as being at high risk for suicide. The policy would also reduce copayments for medications that are prescribed to those veterans. The agency is hopeful that the reduced costs would encourage more veterans in crisis to seek care. The agency wrote in its proposal that the VA believes that active and increased engagement in all medical care, not just mental health care, is a protective factor against suicide. The idea is part of a national strategy to prevent veteran suicide, which the White House released in November. Included in the strategy is a provision for the VA and Defense Department to reduce or eliminate co-payments for veterans and service members seeking care for mental health and substance abuse. Lastly, a hacker posted a bizarre rant on Tripler Army Medical Center's Facebook page after temporarily commandeering the site. The hacker pasted large black and red labels reading "scam" over the page's header. Shortly after, the hacker changed the medical center's location status to "in London, United Kingdom." In a phone interview, Tripler spokeswoman Claudia Lamontia told Stars and Stripes that they didn't know what had happened other than somebody took control of the page. And personnel at the Honolulu-based hospital regained control of the account about 9:30 p.m. According to the medical center's website, Tripler is the only federal tertiary care hospital in the Pacific Basin. The hospital supports 260,000 active duty and retired military personnel, their families, and veterans. Lamontia said the intrusion did not appear to be a ransomware attack, but the hack is under investigation. And that is all for this edition of Stars and Stripes in 7. I'm Lamont Easter, helping you stay connected.